Go.
You just got your report back, and this is the ApoE. There are 6 possible combinations. The normal one is ApoE 3. The abnormal ones are ApoE 2, which isn't too bad, in fact may even be beneficial, but the bad one is ApoE 4. The ApoE 4 does 3 things that are different from the other folks. You have a much higher chance of having Alzheimer's, 74% according to some studies, 8 times according to other studies, and other studies say the jury's out. In addition to this, you're more prone to have heavy metal toxicity, and there may be a correlation between heavy metal and Alzheimer's disease. Certainly with aluminum, there's been some research. More than that, you do not metabolize cholesterol normally, and statins don't work. You do have abnormal lipids, and I know you're not a believer in drugs like statins, but even if we were to give you statins, they wouldn't work. There are different diets and different exercises for the ApoE, and I'm going to encourage you to get Pam McDonald's book called The Perfect Diet. It was published less than a year ago. Pam McDonald was the nurse practitioner of Andrew Weil and has her own practice, but she's an expert in ApoE. So I'll encourage you to do that. Not only does she talk about diet, which in your case should be very, very little fat, but also exercise, in your case should be moderate, not over exercise. So you should not do what your son is doing with overtraining. And you're not going to play football anymore.
You can talk to Michael.
So this is your ApoE 3/ApoE 4. We just did a cognitive test, and you came back very good with the cognitive test. You don't have Alzheimer's, but you knew you didn't have Alzheimer's. And even if you were to get Alzheimer's, this is the late onset Alzheimer's. As I explained before, 75 plus, but a gentleman of your health, your stature, your religion, you're going to live 85, 95, 105, or maybe even, as it says in the Bible, 120. But we're going to do it this year and repeat it every 1 or 2 years, and we'll follow the trajectory down. And yours is going to stay up because we're going to prevent this from happening. It's a lot easier to prevent the disease than to treat it. Prevention. We know the more you use your mind, the less likely a person is to have Alzheimer's. And if you use your mind in different ways, you grow new neurons, or actually new synapses, where the left brain could talk to various parts of the right brain, etc. And to do this, it's great to do crossword puzzles, but it's probably better to do puzzles that involve math, like Sudoku. Table games are good, card games are good, but even better is a new pursuit. Learn a new language, take up flying, start playing an instrument. Easy things you can do is write upside down. Even harder, but better, is write inside out, like in a mirror. It's not unusual to improve your synapses by reading upside down. Just take a book and read upside down. Heavy exercise is not good for you, but moderate exercise raises brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNT.
What's moderate exercise, Doc?
Moderate exercise is to get the heart rate up to 70% max, and there are scales on that. Lifting weights is good, and your heart can be pumping a little bit, but not running 6 miles.
Yeah.
3 miles is okay. You know, the recent study with marathoners is that people that run marathons were thought to be invincible. They don't die. James Fix. Remember James Fix?
Yes.
Yeah. Did it. But the recent study shows that marathoners have a higher incidence of cardiovascular disease. Their body can't handle 26.1 miles. But anyhow, mild exercise. But exercise is good for you. There are several books, and the books that's probably the best is the guru, Dr. David Perlmutter. He's written this book this past year, Power Up Your Brain. That's not worth reading because it talks about voodoo. But there's another one that he published 2 years ago called The Better Brain Book, and there's a new edition coming out in 2 months. You can look up his website, Renegade Neurologist, and he may have other tips. Diet has a lot to do with this, as well as stress. The more stress you have, the more you coagulate your brain. So life is to be enjoyed, not endured. The food you eat should be what your grandmother told you for your brain, fish. If you have fish, it's fantastic. And the fish I'd recommend would be really salmon. And this is farmed salmon, but farmed from British Columbia, Chile, Scandinavia, Australia, not from China, not from Vietnam. Wild salmon has 4,500 milligrams of omega-3. Farmed salmon has 6,000. The omega-3s, of which are 7, the best one is DHA, docosahexaenoic acid. But if you look on a fish oil capsule, and Paula was telling me that you rather do capsule than anything else, it may be 1,000, even 12,000. But if you look how much DHA, it only says 125. Or EPA, eicosapentaenoic acid, it may say 225. So you'll need a good dozen to 16 of those to get the right amount of DHA. On the other hand, you can take plain DHA. There are some animal sources of DHA, like calamari, that's 94% DHA, calamari oil. But not fried calamari. There are 2 kinds of DHA. One is plant and the other is animal. In addition to calamari, it's fish, and that's DHA. And if you were to do that, you need 2,000 milligrams a day. On the other hand, there's another DHA from plants, actually from algae, and it's called DHA-2A, and you need 400 to 800 milligrams. And they come in 400 milligram capsules, and 1 or 2 a day would be enough for you.
Do you have those here?
We have that here. There are other supplements, phosphatidylserine, for example, and I mentioned this, Sustain Your Brain, because Dr. Perlmutter came up with a formula called Brain Sustain. Dr. David knows of some other formulas that may help the brain as well. So, we had talked about nicotine being healthful, and it does tend to help Alzheimer's, but it's the way you get the nicotine. And the delivery system should not be smoking.
Trent?
So you can actually do it by nicotine pops, nicotine drops, or even an e-cigarette. But something that works very, very much like nicotine is vincopostatine. And I gave you some literature on that, and that's very inexpensive for a gentleman your size, 30 or 40 milligrams a day. And it's written here, and we have that as well.
All right, Doc. Thank you.